burnout can happen. It is a real thing. The hope is your mind makes one conclusion. If your business goes long enough without any oxygen, it will die. Truth is, some of us are bad employees. We are terrible. Like, we should fire ourselves, right? There's a circle of life in business. And it creates this drive, prey drive, if you will, where you got to go hunt. So you need structure to start as a producer, structure to go from producer to self-employed, structure to go from self-employed to small business. And guess what else? You need structure to go from small business to big business. All right, y'all, thank you for joining us on our FFL Enter the Haven huddle. So we're going to jump into this real quick. You know, we've had guest speakers kind of pouring life into us and sharing with us the value of sticking and staying. There's an old saying, if you stick and stay, you'll get your pay. They've shared with us, mindset, why that's critical, that we are not uniquely defective, that we all go through the same process. The question is, will we allow ourselves to be bad enough long enough to get good? We got that from all the different speakers. The goal is for you to hear it from different people, because we all have different personalities. Sometimes it isn't the information you're hearing, it's how you hear the information. You've heard all these artists in today's day and age, they do what they call remakes, right? Even Will Smith, some of the songs, one of them, the most popular, Just the Two of Us, it's a hit song, right? But did you know that song's been done before? So a lot of artists, they look and, they search these songs, these beats that have been done. They find a way to spin it in a way where it makes sense in today's day and age. So the purpose of hearing all these different people is, the hope is you hear it's maybe, the words are unique, or maybe the words are the same, better said, but it hits you in a different way, where it gives and breathes life into you, because you see, people like Trey, you see all these different personalities. The hope is your mind makes one conclusion. These people cannot all be high paid actors. It's one thing to say it, but when you see it over and over and over and over and over, it makes a big difference. So ingest the information. As I get these podcasts up, not only for yourself, but guys, use these to help breathe life into other people. Their personalities might match someone. Now, you guys have heard me sometimes when someone is saying, hey, I have this challenge. Some of you have been witness. I say, hey, you know what? Take a look at this podcast. How did I know that? Well, because I heard it. So remember, as part of the Haven 12, you should be sharpening your axe every day. You may not be able to listen to a whole podcast, but as far as of your daily regimen, hey, 15 minutes of a podcast of someone on the process, and you'll get maybe one nugget, two nuggets that makes a difference. So that's my plug on that. Great job for you guys. I'm hoping that you go back and you listen to some of these and you then share it with other people, whether it be just for yourself or for recruiting, because we have a lot of great people that are in the business. So let's transition. I was talking to agent last week, and it really dawned on me how critical it is to get started properly. The structure that you have is the difference maker between being a successful producer and not. So you go into a home, Zach Twardowski said it, the difference between him succeeding after he had started was structure. In the beginning, it was all over the place, and some of you can relate to that. Now you're producing. Guess what? The same thing, the same concept is real when it comes to building a business. So Robert Kiyosaki talked about 4 different quadrants. First quadrant is you are an employee. You work for someone else. That's where you make the least. Next quadrant is you are self-employed, right? You work for yourself-ish. Third quadrant is you have a small business. Fourth quadrant is you have a big business. You're an investor. So the FFL life cycle, remember that, what is it, Lion King, the circle of life, right? There's a circle of life in business. And it isn't just FFL, but in self-employed, 1099, free enterprise business. You need to work for yourself. You're an employee. You know what? And guess who's the boss? You are. You are the boss of yourself. Now, some people say, well, that's self-employed. No. You're not. You're not self-employed until you're actually generating, income. first things first, you are working for you. And truth is, some of us are bad employees. We are terrible. Like, we should fire ourselves because we say we'll do something, we don't. And if we were working for someone else, we would do it. So step one is you need to become a good employee to yourself, right? Have a schedule, show up. Because if you showed up the way you show up sometimes at your job, they would fire you. Some of us need to give ourselves that same feeling. Now, once you are able to do that, become a good employee to yourself, then you transition to self-employed. Here's what I mean by that. You have a schedule and a structure. How do you go from self-employed to be able to build a business? That little chasm, think of this, you're going through, I don't know, forest, whatever else. There is a chasm that separates people from being employed to self-employed. And then there's another chasm that separates people from being self-employed to small business. What is that chasm? It's structure. Same structure that you need for producing. Here's what I mean by that. How do you know you're growing? Burnout can happen. It is a real thing. There's a study. There was these rats, and again, I hope someone knows. If you do know, I'm going to have you put it on the chat. And but there was this study where they put all these rats in water. They were just swimming, and I think they lasted for like an hour before they drowned. I know it sounds terrible, right? Who does this kind of experiments? But they had two controls. One, an hour, then take them out. They just drowned. That's pretty strong nonetheless, because I would die in like 2 minutes. Not that long, probably more like 6. Anyway, they put another control set where before an hour, they took them out for like 5 minutes, a 5-minute reprieve. And then they put them back in. And I believe the experiment said, do you know how long that second group of rats lasted that were given a 5-minute reprieve? They lasted for like 24 hours or 60 hours, something crazy stupid. Crazy, right? What was the difference? They said, well, the difference was hope. You can live X amount of time without, air, X amount of time without water, but you live 0 amount of time with no hope. That's why suicide rate is high. When the hope is gone, it's gone. When I talk about that, I relate that to burnout. If you have no structure, you will die eventually. How do you prevent from burnout? How do you get that hope, that 5-minute reprieve required to not only last the test of time, but to cross that chasm from employee to self-employed to business owner? It's called structure. Here's what I mean by that. You have to be able to gauge growth. The human mind will never, ever, ever do anything it does not believe it can finish. So it's called faith. You would not have gotten up in the morning if you didn't, you wouldn't have gone to sleep if you didn't believe you would have woken up. You wouldn't have gotten to your car if you didn't believe you would make it safely. Anxiety is a real thing where someone's belief that something bad will happen overrides their belief in reality almost, because their perception is reality, because they really literally believe that they're going to die, crash, life is going to blow up. They literally are so afraid. It literally inflicts bodily harm to them because they believe it that much. That's called faith, negative faith almost. Same concept. You have to have a hope. So you have to be able to see that you're growing in the business. The best way to do that is to create this structure. So first things first is, as a new agent, we know the numbers of how much it takes to be able to, receive certain results. Well, as you start producing the business, here's what should happen. And I was taught this early on. Your business has I don't know what they call those in hospitals where it goes beep, beep, whatever you call that thing that they, so your business has that little thing. Imagine it's, in the hospital or whatever else. And for it to have that thing, here's what it looks like. It's money. Did you know that there are great businesses that go out of business? Anna and I, we were actually part of 2 companies that went out of business. This was like traditional businesses. We were in the oil field. Dude, they were paying buku dollars. It was like FFL in the sense of the money we were making. We were working manual labor work. I mean, it was stupid. I mean, we were getting paid stupid money. Per diem daily was like $100 a day. I would only eat 20 so I can keep the rest. Everyone else is eating all their money. But my point is they were making all this money, but they didn't have a good meter on themselves. They went out of business. There are good businesses with good ideas that go out of business. How is that possible? Well, and that's where, you see the stock market exchanges where, they're looking for bailouts. right? Because they have a good idea, but they just don't have the money to produce, to survive. How do you avoid that? Well, here's how you start off. The litmus test of business, of health, is, you don't want to talk about it, but it's money. That determines how healthy your business is. Now, before money comes, it's the activity. The activity is is the lag measure of what will happen with your money, all right? So here's what I mean by that. As you start a business, you open up a bank account. Most of us, we only have one. That's a problem. That's a problem because you'll never have the tools required for you to develop that machine. If anyone knows the name, please tell me, because I hate saying that machine, that will tell your business health. The first account that you should open is your business deposit account for your commissions. Most of us only have that. You can start with your personal account, which is fine, but you need to open 2 other accounts. A second account in this business, we know lead flow is cash flow. You need to open up a second account called a leads account. It's literally, it's the oxygen of your business, right? So it's a specific account for your oxygen of your business. The third account is your operating account for your life, right? Your livelihood. You know, I call it just normal operating account. You pay your house rent with it. You pay whatever with it, right? Car notes, all that stuff. The fourth account is your reserves. That's money for your reserves. Here's what needs to happen. As you get deposits, then deposit will show the first sign of health in your business. Thank you, Dwayne. Cardiac monitor, appreciate that. So the cardiac monitor of your business, the first sign of life in your business is boop, a deposit. Get a deposit, this first sign of life. What do? Well, lead flow is cash flow. So depending on how new you are in the business, you will then, from that, transfer money from that first life of your business to your leads account. Well, how much do you transfer? Well, if you're brand new, at a minimum 50%. I would suggest if you're new, 80% at least, if not 90, depending on where you are, maybe 80 to 90% transfers of that commission to your oxygen account, your leads money. And then what do you do with the remaining 25%, 50% of what's left? Well, you split that up between your reserves and your operating. Maybe brand new, you say, you know what? I'm gonna, just for easy math, I'm gonna start off and I'm gonna transfer 50% of my commissions into my leads account. The remaining 50, I'm gonna split maybe, I don't know, 25% into reserves, 25% into operating. And here's what the truth is. You will go back to work. Your commissions account, so imagine commissions accounts on the fourth, one of the first ones, it should also show, it should always show zero. Zero. That means you need to get back to work. It does 2 things for the mind. It eradicates complacency, because I'll be honest, this is just me. Some of you may not be like this. When I saw my fat commission account, I was like, life is good. No need to go out to work. Who cares? Dial day, whatever. It's just a thing. Who knows? And from what I'm hearing, I'm not the only one. But if that commission account shows zero, it creates this drive, prey drive, if you will, where you got to go hunt, right? So the only accounts, you're going to see your leads account and, of course, your operating account. And for a lot of you, as time goes on, you can do like Stephen Yee did. He hid his reserves account. He didn't even want to see it. But here's what happens. When it comes time for the next week to buy leads, your leads account should be sufficient to provide you. That tells you whether or not you're growing in business. In time, your leads account is funding you. And again, if you're working, you're no longer going to need to put your leads on the credit card because you got commissions. Instead of, in the past, you had lead bills waiting for your money. Now you'll have money waiting for your lead bills as time goes on. Your lead account gets higher. So if you track it right, you go backwards, you look at how many leads you're going to dial, how many appointments you're going to set. And based on that, and you look at the numbers from past, more or less how many families you should protect, you should know how much premium you should bring in from the week, from your work. And then you should know, okay, you know what? If I go out this dial day, I should bring in about, I should help about 5 families. So from that 5 families, I'll, take 2,500 from, because, there's 1,000 per family, 2,500 from that five families, 5,000, put that into my leads. And then the remaining 2,500 goes in equally between the two. And as time goes on, guys, it should be increasing. That is your cardiac monitor. If those different accounts are not growing. Guess what that tells you? You have a problem. And there's only so much that your business can do. If your business goes long enough without any oxygen, it will die. And but wouldn't you like to know how much life, how much breaths you have left, right? Who wouldn't, right? It's like a crystal ball. You see what I'm saying? Structure creates all the difference. So as your account starts growing, your lead account's good. How will you know if someone came to you right now and said, hey, how's the business going? Meaning I'm talking a business consultant, I'm talking integrity marketing group, because this is what they're going to look at. Do you have a healthy business? How could you tell them yes? You can say this all day, but the numbers tell the story. Men lie, women lie, but numbers do not lie. They don't. So if we look at the account, and this is situations, guys, these are things that people don't tell you about. I'm talking business savviness, how to be healthy as a person and as a business. How will they know? Well, they look at the account. Is it growing? Or, hey, man, that leads account, it was growing, but then it faltered. What happened? So if the first sign of life is not there, which is commissions coming into your account, then you know the problem is you need to look at your work ethic. Maybe you need to look at your skill set, right? That's when you can come in with your leadership and say, hey, these are my numbers. This is what I'm doing. I need to get more life, right? Guys, think of it the same way. If you're having trouble breathing on your own, what do you go to? The hospital, right? But if you thought it was normal, just barely getting any breaths, I mean, hey, maybe for some people that's normal, but sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And that's why we have family and friends who they see as struggling. They say, hey, you should go to the hospital. That's not normal. All the time, you thought that was normal. No, it's not normal. You shouldn't be struggling. After you've been in the business for, I would say, a couple of months, 2 months, there is no way you should be struggling. The only reason you're struggling is because the first sign of life is not happening in your business. That cardiac monitor your business, it's not going up. And if it's not going up, guess what the doctors do? Everyone come in the room, clear. Like they bring the defibrillator thing, I think that's what it's called, and they shock you back, hoping that will give you into life. Hence the reason you say, hey guys, hey, I need some help with leads. Hey, I need some help with a little coaching. We got to shock you back into life, something to get you life, because if you go long enough, you will die. Simple as that. That's how businesses die. So again, the 4 counts is the first way you create. Just think of each component, what you need to create your cardiac monitor for your business. Okay, so you got that. If you haven't, guys, I'm hoping you get an account or you have a bank that's easy to work with, not like some podunk bank in Timbuktu. You got to drive 3 million miles to get there. I used to have that too, but I realized, listen, if you're going to be building a big business, do what you got to do. Get a national bank that's easy to work with. You can go online, open the account, do this, do that with ease. It does all the normal stuff that most people do today, Zelle, all that stuff. So start thinking like a business and not like a mom and pop, right? Step 1. Now, how do you transition from self-employed down to big business and so forth? Well, once it's growing, then you're able to move. Now, here's what Robert Kiyosaki said. He said, you are a small business if you have less than 300 employees. In our time, in our vernacular, that means you are a small business if you have less than 300 writing agents. So how do you go from one to the other? Well, your ability to have a healthy business that's growing, to successfully train, successfully help build, successfully grow people that are also having healthy business, that's the determiner. So here, I want you to remember this. If you're deciding to build an agency, the max you can do by yourself is about 200 families a month. Like just you with your hard work ethic, going at it, grinding, you will not supersede 200 families a month, right? I mean, generally speaking, I mean, let's say you were helping, I mean, even if you're helping 30, 40, 50 families a week by yourself, that's the most you can do. But even if you had a small little crew, the thing that is the difference maker between your crew going from just being stuck self-employed to actually becoming a small business is structure. What is that? I keep saying that word. So you need structure to start as a producer, structure to go from producer to self-employed, structure to go from self-employed to small business. And guess what else? You need structure to go from small business to big business. You need staff. And that's another conversation for a different podcast or a different huddle, but you're going to need structure because you're going to need those pillars that will support that growth to help the people become who they need to become. As you help them, then it's game over, guys. That's it. We need to create a monitor. If someone's walking around with no cardiac monitor, they didn't even know it existed, they didn't even know it was available. Maybe back in the day, just like cell phones, you were either a doctor or a drug dealer if you had a cell phone. Remember back in the day? Now, if you don't have a cell phone, you're like, well, why don't you have a cell phone? Everyone has one, right? I mean, guys, it's even so, dialed down. Even if you are making $0, they give you government phones because it's just something you get. If someone doesn't have one, guess what? People did to get them one. Hey, man, why don't you get a cell phone? Oh, I don't got any money. Oh, the government hook you up, right? Oh, they do. If you see people who have no cardiac monitor, tell them that it exists. You should have a healthy business. So I hope that helped.